And hello everybody, and welcome back to another What Ifs Dart simulation, helped out by PDC Darts Simulator. So I've done 2 of these so far with regards to the 2018 World Cup of Darts, and people seem to like them and be interested in what's going on, so I decided to do another one. Now the first 2 were essentially who should have been chosen for Team England and Team Wales. Well, with the Netherlands, there's obviously no question at all which 2 players should go. However, you may recall that last year, Michael van Gerwen had a bit of a foot injury, and there was some question, albeit quite small, whether or not he could play on the weekend in last year's World Cup. In fact, they even had Benito van de Pas come in just in case Michael couldn't go. Now, of course, Michael turned out to be all right, played brilliantly all weekend, the Dutch won easily, all was well in the land of the Netherlands. So, it didn't really matter in the end, but what if? So, here's what we're going to try to learn today. We're going to try to learn how much of a negative impact that will have on the team should one of the 2 big guns for the Dutch be unable to play, and how much of an impact will it make. And we'll also be able to potentially find out, should there be an injury or an illness to one of their players, who should take his place. So what we're going to do is we're going to run 7 different simulations. First will be with their proper lineup to get a baseline for what percentage of the time they win what they average. And then we will have all 3 reasonably possible candidates to replace an injured player play with each of the 2 partners, Benito van de Pas, Jelle Klaasen, and Vincent van de Voort. You can make a case for any one of the 3 to be on the team should something happen. And the simulation will be each of these 7 matchups against the current Scotland team, where Peter Wright is number 1 and Gary Anderson is number 2. That's what they're using in real life, so that's what we're going to go with. I'm going to choose them as their opponents because I think they're playing pretty good right now and probably have the best chance to beat the Dutch of anybody. And they are the number 1 seed, so it seems to make sense to use them for our experiment. So, with that said, let's get to the board. Alright, so here we go. We got the board up. It is time for darts. So, Scotland versus Netherlands. Gotta make sure I input all the code correctly. 2, 2, 1, 1, 2, 1. Oh, I didn't do it right. I put Gary Anderson first. Well, that's a grab. I'm always used to having Gary go first. They switched it this year for some bizarre reason. But that's okay. So I caught it early enough I can just re-input the players. Alright, so Peter Wright goes first. Alright. And then Gary Anderson goes second. Oh, my fingers do not like having to type them in backwards. It feels so awkward. Alright, so best of 7 and 10,000 sets. And the reason I choose 10,000 sets is because essentially that is 10,000 matches of 7. They'll rotate throw each time, and since it's pretty reasonable to assume they'll each win about half the time, we're not going to stress about, oh, well, they would have won the bowl 55%. Who cares? In the long run, it's not going to make that big of a deal. So once the simulation finishes, I will plug in the numbers and get our stats. So I think Netherlands would be a slight favorite here, but you never know. You never know what happens on the hockey. So taking a bit of time, it probably means it's a close match. I could simulate about 2,000 legs per second, I think. Oh, and there we go. So the Dutch won with a very impressive 101.77 average. So I'll go ahead and stick that in. You can't see the... Oh. And the win percentage is going to be 70 Oh no, they won. So it'd be 10,000 divided by 17,687. So 10,000 divided by 17,687. And we should probably put an equal sign in front of that. I'll bring it up here in a second. I just want to get my formatting right. All right, so there we have it. There's our first piece of data. So with MvG and RvB, they're expected to beat Scotland 56% of the time. I think that's pretty reasonable. I might have thought it might have been a little higher than that, but I'd say that they should be a bit of a favorite. But we all know that Peter Wright and Gary Anderson, when they're playing well, can absolutely hang with anybody. And it's not surprising that they won about half the time. All right, so now let's say what happened if Barney was injured, couldn't play, and now we're going to have Benito van de Pas play instead. All right, so let's pick new players. All right, so first player is Peter Wright. MvG still won. Now Benito. No. Gary Anderson. My fingers are all turned around. There we go. We got there in the end, folks. Yeah, I got like 2 hours of sleep before darts, slept during the break, and then so that was worth about another 2 hours of sleep, so I'm kind of not all here today. Anyway, so Benito van de Pas is kind of an interesting player. He looked like he was going to be one of the great young players, but has been absolutely atrocious this year. It's like he's completely broken, which is very unfortunate because he has a lot of talent, just can't find anything. And his world ranking has dropped a fair amount. It's going to really drop in the next year if he doesn't get something together. So I think he's the most talented of the three replacements, but he's in such awful form. How much can that really be worth? Well, we'll see. How much of a hindrance will that put on MvG to lose his buddy RvB? Yeah, these longer simulations. Okay, there it goes. Well, okay, so as you can see, this completely changed things. So now Scotland actually won the match. The average was 99.7. Go ahead and stick that in right there. So we dropped our average by 2 full points and 97.43. So now they only won 49% of the time. So having Barney was worth over 7% more wins. That's pretty significant. So essentially, if we played 14 times, you'd win one more with Barney than with Benito. So I don't think that's insignificant. All right, so let's move on. Let's try with Jelle Klaasen. Oh, well, let's select teams and not pairs. That would help. I'm so tired. I'm not getting up early to watch darts, I don't think. I might. I don't know. I'm just so friggin' tired. All right. MvG. I'm going to do Netherlands first because that seems to be what my hands want to do. All right, how many? Like 7, 10,000 sets. All right, and off you go. So the last one was almost a tie. But of course, with Barney, they were a favorite. So Jelle Klaasen is kind of in the same boat as Benito. As we all know, he made the semifinals of the World Championships 3 years ago. I guess 3 times ago. The last one Gary Anderson won. And he made the Premier League last year. And let's just say it didn't go so well. I don't know if he was 9th or 10th, but he did make the cut. Wasn't even particularly close. It never really got anything going. Had wrist surgery and really hasn't gotten back into any sort of consistent form. So I would suspect this will be a pretty decent drop off from Barney. We will see. That's another younger player that looked like he was going to be a really top player, but just hasn't been able to consistently hold form. Although, there we go. All right, so this was actually, we did even worse with Jelle rather than Benito. All right, so 99.45 was our average. And 93.49. All right, so we won 93.49 at, equals 93.49 divided by 19.349. 48%. So you can see we're going the other direction. So Barney is definitely pretty important. We can already see that. All right, so now let's have Vincent van der Voort play. We'll see what happens. Take MvG first, Peter Wright second, Vincent van der Voort third, and Gary Anderson fourth. Same rules, same scoring, and off we go. So Van der Voort has never been a great player. He's always been a decent player. And with him, you pretty much know what you're going to get. You're going to get about an average professional, but you're going to get it pretty consistently. It's not like the other two guys who they'll average 98 in the morning, and then they'll come back and average 82 in the evening. That's obviously not so good for a team game. So, however, against a big team like this, you might need a little more. Consistently averaging around 92, 93, something like that's probably not going to be enough against Peter Wright and Gary Anderson, but we'll see. We will see pretty soon, I think. We will. And the Netherlands won. All right, so it looks like perhaps the consistency and the stability of Vincent van der Voort actually was worth a lot. I misjudged that. So good for him. He played quite well. The average was 100.13. As for the win, what did Scotland win? 96.43. All right, so 10,000, equals 10,000 divided by 19,643. 50.91%. So we're basically even money with him. So there's what would happen if we lost Barney. We're getting about a 6 to 8% drop off in the expected win percentage for the Netherlands. That's not good, and you're certainly not happy to lose 6 to 8% of your success. But what would happen if we lost MvG? Now, this could be pretty drastic. So again, remember, with MvG and RvB, we won 56% of the time. We lose RvB, we're winning between 48 and 50. We go from a slight favorite to basically a coin flip. So let's see what happens if we remove MvG. I think we all know what's going to happen, but let's just do it anyway. All right, so again, we'll set this up for team play. So now Barney will throw first. And so we'll take Benito first. And off we go. I don't think this is going to go too well for the Dutch, but you never know. I think we're going to see just how big of a difference Michael van Gerwen makes on the game. We all know he's the best player in the world. We all know he's way better than anybody else. And there's only a handful of players in the world that can even compete with him when he's playing well. One of them, in my opinion, is actually on this Scottish team I'm playing, Gary Anderson. I think if Michael's really on his game, I don't think Peter Wright's quite able to hang with him. I mean, Peter Wright's a very, very good player, but he's not the type that's going to go out and average 110 or something crazy like that, whereas Gary Anderson can. Woohoo! Look at that, people. Wow! Oh my goodness. That difference was massive. So the average, that dropped even more than I thought. So the average dropped all the way to 96.08, almost a 6-point drop. And now they won 51.42. All right, so what's going on here? All right. Sorry, guys, had some computer issues. 51.42, whoops, equals 51.42 divided by 15, 142. 33%. Wow! Look at that difference. That tells you that if MvG couldn't have played last year, they would have been 22.5% less likely to win if they had played Scotland. We can only imagine what they would have been against England or Wales. All right, let's continue. This is really cool. All right, so next will be RvB playing with Jelle Klaasen. All right, so teams, Netherlands, Scotland, RvB first, Peter Wright. Let's see, we said Klaasen now, and Gary Anderson. Same rules, same scoring, and off we go. I mean, that is just shocking. And we've established that they're not just a one-man team because you saw they dropped 6 to 8% projected wins by losing Barney, but wow! That tells you that MvG is 3 to 4 times more important than Barney. I guess that makes sense when you think about it because Barney's, if you line him up right now, he's probably somewhere between the 8th and 12th best player in the world. But there's a lot of players that on any given day can play at his level. But there's maybe 5 at the most that can play at MvG's level. And I don't mean consistently, I mean ever. So let's see what we get here. It should be finishing up here pretty soon. And there it goes. 51.34. And 95.79 average. All right, so let's get the average in there. 95.79. And what was our win percentage? 51.34. So equals 51.34 divided by 15.134. 33.92. So basically, it made no difference. Made a little bit of a difference when they were playing with MvG, and that could be for anything. That could just be slight variance. That just could be there's a million things that go into why it essentially made no difference here, and it made a little more difference back there. All right, so now we're going to have Barney play with Vincent van de Voort. We'll see what we get here. All right, so again, where's my input window? Here we go. All right, so, oh, no, we don't get MvG. We get RvB first. I almost selected MvG. That wouldn't have worked very good for this experiment, would it? All right, so now Vincent van de Voort and Gary Anderson. 7 legs per set. 10,000. And off we go. So we saw in our previous simulation that van de Voort, the most consistent of the 3 possible replacements, was the best candidate to play with MvG. We'll see if it matters with RvB. It's also possible that Scotland is just too good for these players, because I think that at least right now, Peter Wright is... I think he's comparable to Van Barneveld. He might be a little better, but it's not going to be a significant difference. And day to day, either one can certainly be better. Whereas I think Gary Anderson is definitely better than anybody else that we have playing this simulation. And, oh, well, there we go. 54-47 wins. We got 96-57 on the average. And we got 54-47. All right, so 50 equals 54-47 divided by 15,447. 35.26%. So slightly better, but I mean, again, we went from in pretty good standing to not. So what does this conclusion draw? Well, this tells us that if we lost MvG and replaced him with any of those three, our average is going to drop about 5 points. 5 to 6 points, it appears, depending on which one we pick. If we lose RvB, we're going to drop about 1.5 to 2.5, somewhere around there. So we're going to notice the difference, but it's not massive. But look at those win percentages. With MvG and RvB, we're a slight favorite over Gary Anderson and Peter Wright. With just MvG, we're essentially a coin flip with any one of the three replacements. Whereas with RvB, it's now basically a 1 in 3 proposition. Certainly a massive difference where we go from a favorite to a dog. Excuse me. So what conclusions can we draw from this? Well, I think the main conclusion we can draw is that MvG is really freaking good. I think that's the number one thing. But we all already knew that. And we also see now with the numbers that RvB is also pretty good and is an important part of the team because there's a noticeable difference when he doesn't play. And it's not like we're replacing him with scrubs. Benito and Jelle Klaasen are still in the top 20 in the world despite their struggles, and Voort typically hovers around 30. So these are not just bad players. These are very reasonable players, and you just see how the numbers makes the difference. So it really matters, these lineups. So those are my conclusions. And I hope you found this really interesting. I certainly did. Like my other videos, I don't know what the results are going to be until I plug it in and push go. I think it's more interesting that way. So my commentary is not based on the results because I don't know the results. So yeah, I find this extremely interesting to do, and I'm really excited to share my findings with you all, to put some numbers and some math behind what we see on the darts board, because to me, it just is really, really exciting. So if you like this and you want to see more things like this, leave a like, leave a comment, subscribe, do something awesome like that. And that way I'll know that, hey, people like this stuff and that I should totally do more of it, and I totally will. If you've got a scenario or a question you would like answered mathematically, send me a comment, send me a tweet, whatever you want to do, and if I can do it, I will try to do it. So thanks for watching, everyone, and I hope you had a wonderful time, and I hope you tune in next time to see some more awesome darts or whatever else I do related content. See you guys!